All right, today we are going to unpack a story that honestly, it sounds almost impossible. It's this powerful lesson in how one tiny decision, a seemingly harmless shortcut you might take during a simple home repair, can just quietly spiral into this massive, life-altering problem. I mean, check this out. This guy tried to save just $5 and it silently cost him $50,000. Yeah, $5, the price of a coffee, right? That one little decision, that smart move to save a tiny bit of cash, ended up creating a $50,000 hole in his finances. The difference is just, it's staggering, and that's exactly what we're gonna get into. So the first thing on your mind is probably, how is that even possible, right? How does a tiny little shortcut lead to such a catastrophic outcome? It sounds like some kind of trick question, but it's not. It is a real-world trap that honestly, any of us could fall into without even seeing it coming. Okay, so to really get how this all went down, we actually have to start at the end of the story. We've got to look at that final shocking bill that just seemed to appear out of nowhere. $50,000. And look, this number is way more than just a financial loss. It's the grand total of all that unnoticed damage. We're talking about the cost of tearing out walls, bringing in professionals for mold remediation, repairing the home's actual rotted structural supports. I mean, this is the true cost of a decision that was made years and years early. So, okay, let's rewind the clock all the way back to the beginning. How did a $50,000 disaster even start? Well, it all kicked off with a weekend trip to the hardware store for a simple plumbing fix. It was a choice so small, so, insignificant, that seriously any of us might have made it without even thinking twice. Yep, it all started with just $5. So picture this. The choice was between the official manufacturer's connector part for like $8 and a generic off-brand one for $3. So to save $5, he went with the cheaper one. It was a total what's the harm moment, right? A seemingly rational, super minor shortcut. So here it is, laid out plain and simple. The saving, $5. The true cost, $50,000. I mean, let's do the math on that. The final cost was 10,000 times greater than what he thought he was saving. It is a perfect and frankly painful illustration of a completely disproportionate outcome. But maybe the most terrifying part of this whole story isn't even the final bell. It's the time in between. It's that long, quiet period where that cheap little part started to fail. And on the surface, absolutely nothing seemed wrong. This timeline really shows you the anatomy of the disaster. Okay, so at year 0, the $5 mistake is made. But then, for the next 4 years, complete silence. That ill-fitting connector is creating this slow, tiny drip behind the wall. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but moisture is spreading, mold is starting to grow, and the home's wooden frame is slowly beginning to rot away. It's not until year 5, when the floor literally starts to buckle, that the bill finally comes due. And this is the real danger, right here. It wasn't a big dramatic flood, it was a slow, silent decay. That silence is exactly what makes these kinds of shortcuts so treacherous. You don't get any immediate feedback telling you you've made a mistake. You just get peace and quiet, while the real cost is just festering under the surface. So you can see this story isn't really just a cautionary tale about plumbing, is it? It's a perfect example of a very specific type of problem, a dangerous mental trap that we can all fall into. So let's break down the principle that's really at play here. The key thing to get your head around is this concept, the costly cheap shortcut. What is it? Well, it's any decision that gives you a small immediate reward, but saddles you with this huge hidden IOU. You're basically trading long-term stability for a little bit of short-term convenience, and as we've just seen, that is a terrible bargain. These kinds of shortcuts, they have 3 really distinct characteristics, and we saw every single one of them in this story. First, the consequences are delayed. I mean, it took 5 years for that tiny drip to make the floor buckle. Second, the costs are hidden. All that rot and mold was growing behind a wall, totally out of sight. And third, the impact is wildly disproportionate. A $5 piece of plastic is to $50,000 in structural home repair. It's just mind-blowing. And that really brings us to a final and pretty personal question. Because this story, it isn't just about one person's $50,000 mistake. It's really a warning for all of us. So take a second and think about your own decisions. In your work, your health, your finances. What seemingly harmless $5 shortcut, what cheap little connector part might be silently compounding in the background for you right now?